With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com. And use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
Hello everyone, and welcome into the Friday Walkthrough. I'm Cole Carmody alongside Monty Spiller. K-State is getting set to play their 8th game of the season against Oklahoma State. But before we talk about that game, we got to rewind it a week to Saturday, talk about the game against TCU. That game was fascinating.
Yeah, the first half was great. The Cats came out to play, a lot of injuries, a lot of unsuspected, I wouldn't say heroes, but guys that made plays. And then all of a sudden, you know, it kind of went downhill with the injuries. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we got a lot on the docket today on the Friday Walkthrough. But before we go any further, we got to let you know that we are sponsored by our friends at the Part-Time Beverage Company. The first half is sponsored by the Club Special. The second half is sponsored by the Cape Cod. Make sure you're getting in, checking out those drinks, and make sure you're clicking subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as subscribing to the website at GoPowerCat.com. So let's get into that game against TCU. You mentioned some unsung heroes, and we'll talk about that.
Right.
But I want to start with this. I want to know what your reaction was when Adrian Martinez comes in for a drive. He gets the 20-yard run. K-State looks like they're going to get rolling. They stall out, have to punt. TCU goes down, scores a touchdown, and on comes Will Howard.
A lot of questions. You know, that first series wasn't bad. Like you said, the stall, first play, he runs like 20 yards or close to 20 yards. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, the RPO is going to be on tonight. Deuce is going to have a day, kind of like you talked about the week before. Martinez is back looking good. It's going to be a good game in a hostile environment, top 25 matchup. And then all of a sudden, it happens. And I'm asking myself, like, I'm watching the game from home. So I'm looking for Martinez on the sideline, like, what happened? Trying to replay the plays before. He didn't take a big hit. So my mind is like, what's going on? Is it something minor? Is it equipment or what? But Will Howard comes in.
It was fascinating because I think Will Howard has taken a lot of heat from K-State fans these past few years. But I think what people fail to realize is that when he came in 2020, he was not here during the summer because they could have no football contact during the summer. That was the summer of COVID. And so he came in as a true freshman, had basically 4 weeks to prepare for a Division I football program, is thrown into the fire, and wins his first game starting on the road at TCU.
Yes.
Did he have some things that he probably wishes he could take back? Sure, there were plays that he'll tell you, that was a growing experience, and it was. And then last year, obviously, Skyler gets hurt. And people forget, Will Howard comes in against Nevada, wins them that game. K-State was an underdog last year against Nevada. They go down to Oklahoma State. He gets hurt in the first half, is not even able to finish it. And then here comes Skylar Thompson back in. Will Howard sits. They bring in Adrian Martinez. He's kind of the forgotten guy.
Right.
But I think he showed on Saturday that he is able to win you a game. This is not the same Will Howard from 2020. This version of Will Howard is confident. This version of Will Howard can throw the ball down the field and can execute things that Colin Klein wants. That was my biggest takeaway of that first half. Regardless of the outcome of the game, Will Howard is a much improved player.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk about Will. And it's one of those things where I will say I was one of those fans who was not happy with him in the past and frustrated with him. And I get it. I'm a passionate guy. I want to see the Cats win. But let's talk about Will as a person. How many guys do you know over a 2 or 3 year span who has been a backup quarterback and continue to get passed over or beaten out for a position, will stick with a program, and then bring in another star quarterback and Rubley out of high school? How many guys you know will stick it out, continue to be loyal to his team, do what's asked of him, and know when his time comes, he's ready? Not many guys. I guarantee most quarterbacks would have transferred, especially with the transfer portal now. They would have transferred 2 years ago.
It's open season.
Absolutely, but not Will Howard. He's true to his commitment. He's a K-State Wildcat. He bleeds purple, and the guy stuck it out. And then, unfortunately, Martinez had an injury, but he came in, ready to play, and was slinging it.
It makes you really feel for Will.
Yeah.
I mean, you're rooting for him.
Yeah,
how can
man.
you not? If
Yeah,
you're a K-State
absolutely.
fan, how could you not root for a kid like that? He embodies what it means to be a K-State student, a K-State athlete, and a K-State alumni. I think Will is perfect right here in Manhattan. I think K-State fans should really enjoy anytime he gets to take the field. And he might take the field on Saturday. We'll talk about that in the second half. But, the offense looked different.
Yeah.
In the first half. I mean, how many of those play action passes and RPOs did we see that we've been sitting here on this couch talking about for weeks? When are they going to start doing this?
Right.
Well, they finally did. And they attacked the ball down the field. It was almost kind of like Colin Klein said, all right, you know what? This is we got to scrap the game plan, and I'm just going to feel it out. And, I mean, I thought the offense for 4 drives, 4 touchdowns, and against the TCU defense that admittedly probably is not the best defense they've played this year. No. But they took advantage of it, and it was great to see.
Yeah, and one thing, unfortunately, with the injury to Martinez, but the fortunate thing for us was TCU didn't have a chance to prep for Will Howard. Will Howard was he's a mobile guy, and the staff now at TCU didn't see him 2 or 3 years ago because it's a totally different staff. Mm-hmm. And he's mobile, and he can throw the ball. They know he's a good quarterback, not a starter, but he's a good quarterback. And I think, like you said, Collins probably scrapped the plan and said, you know what, we have nothing to lose. Let's throw caution into the wind and play ball.
Because when we asked him on Thursday at the press conference, do you change the playbook at all when Will comes in compared to Adrian? And he kind of danced around the question. It was like, it just kind of depends. Basically, yes. Yeah. You read through coach speak, the answer is yes. Right. They do some things differently because they have to. I mean, Will Howard is not the speed threat that Adrian Martinez is. Now, is he able to put his foot in the ground, maybe get an extra 2 or 3 yards when Adrian would maybe just kind of run out of bounds and try to avoid that hit? Yeah, but he can because he's 2 inches taller and 30 pounds heavier.
He's a thick kid.
He is a big kid.
Yes, he is.
So, I thought Will did a great job. I also thought the receivers stepped up.
Yeah.
You mentioned Cade Warner. That was one heck of a catch.
Man, when that happened, I saw it, and initially the ball was a little bit on the throne, but great. And we talked about it the week before, and when we graded the receivers, and I think we both graded them as C's at the time, and we said they need to step up and make plays, and that's the kind of plays we were talking about. Cade went in high pointed the ball, basically took it from the DB, and showed everybody why he's a starter for K-State in the Big 12. And the guy is capable. He made some great catches early in the year, but that right there was a tone setter, and it got the whole crowd's attention. People were like, wait a minute, what's happening? So, yeah.
It was great to see, and I also thought Deuce Vaughn still obviously trying to come back from injury.
Yeah.
He had to go to the locker room. He comes back in. He finishes 12 carries for 83 yards, along of 47, which was his touchdown. K-State has not run a lot of inside zone recently. That's the one thing I've noticed. And I think it's to try and avoid those hits on Deuce, those unnecessary hits. They're fine with sending him out to the boundary. And you know what? If you're going to have a safety tackle you, it feels a lot different than a 300-pound defensive lineman tackling you.
Yeah.
And so I think that we might see some more inside zone this week coming up here against Oklahoma State. Again, we'll talk more about that. But we didn't really see it.
No.
But when we did see it, it went 47 yards for a touchdown.
It's there. Our O-line, we talked about them all year. They had the capability to move anybody. And the Big 12 has some good defenses. A lot of time people don't give us credit because our offenses are capable of scoring tons of points. So that makes defense looks bad. But K-State has the ability. And like what you said, I think we will run more zone, but we're getting a running back. He's a bigger body. He made some good plays. And a lot of times when Deuce get hurt, he comes in and there's not a lot of panic because the kid didn't make a whole lot of mistakes. And he does his job, and he does it well. So he's turning into a solid number 2 running back that probably could start for a lot of other Big 12 schools if needed.
Yeah, DJ Giddens came in and really, but he had a fumble scare. I know he fumbled it.
Yeah.
K-State got it back, but I mean, there was a catch he made that I think everybody was just, wow. That is a big time catch. So as good as the offense looked in the first half, I think it's fair to say they just couldn't get into a rhythm in the second half.
No.
A lot of that had to do with Will Howard getting hurt, and I'll maintain this. I'll say this. I've said it before. I think if Will Howard does not get hurt, K-State wins that game.
Absolutely.
They had to bring in Jake Rubley, and he just was not ready.
No, Jake wasn't ready. And I guarantee when they travel down to Fort Worth, and there's an old saying, you're one play away from playing. But when you're a third-string quarterback, you don't You don't think that. I'm sorry. You say you do, but you don't. And I'm not saying that Jake didn't prepare, but mentally, I guarantee he wasn't ready to go in at that point of the game. Maybe mop-up duty if we're up by 20 points in the fourth quarter. Yeah, you're fine. We're going to keep it simple. Handoff left, handoff right. Now you're going in, and we're asking you to make plays on right away to keep us in the game, and he wasn't ready.
And it's obvious that he's a redshirt freshman. Mm-hmm. You give him some time. I don't think this is going to define Jake Rubley's career at K-State or anywhere for that matter. But yeah, it just wasn't ready, and K-State stalled out offensively, which TCU started to pick it up. And as we transition to the defense, the injuries were a big story on the defensive side. You lose Daniel Green in the second quarter.
Yeah.
To me, the play of the game on defense is there's a screen pass. It's 3rd and 17.
Mm-hmm.
K-State has like 4 or 5 guys there to make a tackle. No one can make a tackle. They end up getting the first down, go and score a touchdown. That, to me, was the biggest play of the game.
Absolutely. That set the tone. Basically, momentum shifted. At that point, TCU had the momentum. K-State, up until that point, was in control. And right then, you can just tell body language had changed. The injuries were mounting up. The crowd was into it. TCU had the momentum. And it's tough. And football is a game of momentum. But you're right. That was definitely the game changer. And at that point, we kind of fell behind mentally, and we couldn't catch up and make up that stagger.
What's interesting to me, though, is with all the guys that came out, there was at one point where K-State had they had 5 either former walk-ons or first-year players on the field in the fourth quarter of a one-score game against a top 10 team on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you're playing. If that were the case against South Dakota probably would have drove down the field and scored a touchdown.
You're going to struggle. You're going to struggle, but I'm an optimist. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
The bright side is we have quality depth. And the thing about it is, though, although we don't want our guys to get reps in that situation, they're learning on the go and understanding, okay, this is the tempo of the game. This is what needs to happen. So in the future, we got a lot of football left. Those guys who normally wouldn't get reps in a game like that did, and hopefully they understand now what they need to do to prepare. But like you said, anybody, I think, in the Big 12 would have probably drove against us, especially on the road, and scored. So I'm not going to hold a lot against those guys because they're twos for a reason, and nothing against walk-ons, because I played with some walk-ons in K-State who were phenomenal players who went on to have great NFL careers, but they're quite not ready yet. And so that's one thing we have to understand. But I'm optimistic about the team, and I think we'll be okay.
And I'll give them this too. When K-State went for it on 4th down and didn't get it, and they were backed up, guess what? K-State came out and they stuffed TCU, and TCU did not get any points. That showed me a lot about that defense. So did when K-State at the very end of the game went for it on 4th, or they threw an interception and 4 minutes left in the game. K-State, they didn't let them score.
Nope.
How many times do we see that where teams just run right up the middle?
Yep.
The team is defeated. They didn't do that. They didn't give up. That is a reflection of the leadership, not only on the defense, but of the coaching staff as well. They're starting to get more healthy. We'll run through a list of injuries in the second half. But, yeah, I mean, it was disappointing in general as we kind of wrap up the first half here with some general thoughts. It was disappointing because you feel like they kind of missed an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But there is you have to take solace in the fact that they were really only 2 or 3 plays away from winning that game.
We had 2 or 3 plays and 2 injuries away from dominating the game, to be honest with you. But you're correct. And like I said, taken away from the loss, we never quit. And that's the culture of K-State football. And I'm not going to name any names for other schools, but there are some schools who, when you're winning, oh yeah, we're playing hard. But as soon as you get down, they quit. But that's not K-State culture. It's been years, like 30-plus years, since K-State has had a team like that. And I don't think we will ever go back to that type of attitude. But the coaching staff, the players, the former players, the current players, just the environment of K-State football is a no quit. No matter what situation, there's no quit.
There is no quit, and that's only going to help them as they move forward this week against Oklahoma State. Again, I could not be more impressed with the way they handled the loss as well. Those guys came into the media room limping. Everybody's limping out. It looks like they just got done with a boxing match, and they came and talked to the media, and Cade Warner, I think, said it best. He's like, there's no quit in this team. He said, I'm not going to let them quit. No. He's a leader on that team. He's like, I'm not going to let them quit. There's no quit in this team. They'll be back for the game against Oklahoma State. But, again, it does feel like maybe this is a turning point. If K-State can find a way to beat Oklahoma State, the loss against TCU can be a positive because, as you mentioned, you did get quality reps for some guys who will have to play.
Yes.
Even if it's just a snap or two, they'll have to play at the end of the year.
And you're right. And one thing I took away, and I was a little surprised, and it shouldn't matter, but it does. After we lost, we still are ranked in the top 25. And that just goes to show that the national media, the coaches, people who have some knowledge of the game, and a lot of times people vote on the top 25 and never watch a game. Mm-hmm. They based off of the name of a team, what they've done in the past. But I think a lot of people, not just the K-State fan, understand that K-State probably should have won that game against an undefeated top 10 team in Fort Worth at nighttime. So that says a lot about how other people feel about that team. And I think our kids understand that too as well, moving forward, knowing what they have. And like you said, we can go in the Oklahoma State game at home, thank goodness. And if we can get a win, and that I think an Oklahoma State win will be more of a quality win than it would have been over TCU, honestly. But we'll see.
It'll be fun. We'll talk about that and much more in the second half here on the Friday Walkthrough. We're sponsored by the Part-Time Beverage Company, and we will see you after this short break.
JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com code podcast.
My 13-year-old acts like a puppy again. Almost overnight, she's a different dog.
Perfect poops.
When people switch their dog's food to the farmer's dog, the effects can seem like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply real meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of highly processed pellets. No tricks, just smarter, healthier pet food delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do. Get 50% off your first order at thefarmersdog.com/nomagicfifty.
Welcome back in here to the Friday Walkthrough. I'm Cole Carmody alongside Monty Spiller. We're sponsored by the Part-Time Beverage Company. The first half is sponsored by the Club Special. The second half is sponsored by the Cape Cod. Make sure you're hitting subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. Let's talk about this game against Oklahoma State. Before we get into the nuts and bolts and the X's and O's, as we so love to do here on the Friday Walkthrough, we got to run through the injuries, because that is honestly the biggest story of this game. If you've been following Kansas State football at all the past 7 days, you know this is a big deal.
It is.
It completely changes the game. And we had a chance to talk with Colin Klein and Joe Kleinerman today, or on Thursday, as well as Chris Kleiman on Tuesday. Not much of an injury update, but we did find out that some of the guys who came out are likely to play. One of those guys is Ben Sinnott, the tight end who hurt his elbow. Colin Klein said he is probable. Julius Brents and Josh Hayes in the secondary both will play. We found that out. That is very good news for the secondary. Adrian Martinez, of course, everybody wants to know, and of course nobody will know because he is day-to-day.
Right.
A million gamesmanships being played between Mike Gundy and Chris Kleiman there. Same thing with Daniel Green, a game-time decision. So we'll see on those two, but everybody else, it sounds like, is going to play. That is great news for K-State.
It is, and like you said, who knows who really will play come Saturday, but the fact that Oklahoma State has to prepare for the potential of having an Adrian Martinez, the potential of having a Daniel Green on the other side of the ball, that makes your game plan a little different, because if they know these guys are out, they plan to target those areas where those players would be normally. But hopefully, you know, if all is well, we get those guys to play. But if not, I trust our backups to be ready, and they come with a game plan. Now, for me personally, knowing that Brents will be back, ready to play, and Hayes as well, that's huge, because they are two leaders in that secondary, and they're physical players, and they can set the tempo and dictate the way a ball game goes. So hopefully they're healthy enough to be at full strength or close to it and dictate the game like they normally do.
Those are two seniors in the back end that are probably your best secondary players. Yeah. I mean, that is huge. You know, people are going to be, if Daniel Green doesn't end up playing, that is a big loss for Kansas State. Don't get me wrong. But you having those two guys makes that blow a little bit less. And we'll kind of talk about some of that here as we kind of talk about the game plan. But on the Oklahoma State side, the injuries are just as big of a deal.
They are.
There is 12, let me make sure I got this right, 12 starters who are at some point out of the game who didn't play against Texas or came out of the game. So combined, 12 players against Oklahoma State or against Texas were missing for Oklahoma State. A lot of those guys will probably roll into this week. Another one of those guys is Jason Taylor II. He made a big time. He had 2 interceptions against Texas. Obviously, the son of the former NFL Hall of Famer. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer yet.
I'm not sure if he's a Hall of Famer or not, but
defensive end Jason Taylor. So he's a good player. He's their heart and soul on defense. If he can't go, that's a big loss for them. Most of their guys are out on the defensive side.
Yes.
So K-State has most of their guys out on the defensive side as well. So all signs point to this being a high-scoring affair, which just means it's going to be like 20-17.
Exactly. And one thing with Oklahoma State's injuries, the good thing for us, we're not traveling. And for them, you have so much time to get treatment. And like for us, for who guys are maybe on the bubble and not for sure is going to play, that give us an extra day to get treatment. You're home in your own bed. You're not traveling. For Oklahoma State, it's not the case. There's one less day you have to prepare, and a decision pretty much has to be made the day before you leave to come travel at that point. And like you said, for us, there are players on the defense side of the ball are hurting. We're at home. Our crowd, every time Oklahoma State plays, and with Coach Gandhi last year or 2 years ago with the band, complaining about the band playing. Our student section is aware of it. And it's homecoming for us. It's homecoming for us. They're aware of it. And I can guarantee word of it has gotten out, and our student section will be ready to make even more noise come Saturday. So I think that'll play a big role for us.
There will be a few the band chants going on. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Talking with some Oklahoma State people as well. Spencer Sanders, their quarterback, obviously 5th-year quarterback. He's been there. This is his 4th year starting. Playing at 70% or so is what I've been told. So, he's one of those guys where obviously he makes a big difference. And Joe Klanderman talked about it. He said he is a game changer. When he is able to play, he is very, very good. He threw the ball over 50 times against Texas, and he has a hurt shoulder. So we'll see how that transpires. Again, he'll play.
Yeah.
No, he's going to play. But how healthy and how effective he is will be something to monitor, especially you mentioned on the road. It just feels like this is a game that is set up for a dramatic ending. And with how many players that are out on each side, it's going to be somebody who steps up who nobody's going to be able to predict.
Yeah, and a lot of times that happens. Last week for us, it was Will Howard and Cade Warner, although Cade was a known name, but he hadn't had a standout game. And obviously Will coming in for Martinez was huge. But you're right, I'm not sure. And if I had to figure out who that guy would be, I have no idea. And I've said it the last couple of weeks, we need special teams play. We've been close a couple of times of breaking kickoffs, one player away from breaking a big one. And I feel like K-State has a history of breaking long kickoff returns against Okie State. So hopefully, come Saturday, this is the day.
And you mentioned special teams. Before we go any further, we've got to talk about the kicking game as well. Yeah. That's a story right now, and Chris Klieman talked about it on Tuesday. Chris Tennant obviously missed 2 field goals against TCU. They said there's going to be a little competition this week at who's going to be kicker. Is it going to be Tennant? Or is it going to be the punter, Ty Zentner, who did some kicking against LSU? Yeah. There's 2 freshmen, two true freshmen, one from Minnesota, the other from Manhattan High, who might get the opportunity to kick. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I mean, that competition is always good for a position like kicker.
It is. It's healthy, and it's a mind game, especially for kickers. Hopefully whoever it end up being, they are ready for Saturday and can make the extra points, and make the field goals, and make the kicks that need to be made to get the win. But, I never wish, and some people were bad-mouthing the kicker, and I get it, it's an emotional game. I never wish any ill will towards a player, but competition is good. And as long as it's a healthy competition, I'm all for it. And if it makes him a better player, so be it. But whoever is the best guy for us come Saturday, let him play.
It'll be fascinating to see what Chris Klieman decides to do with that, because that is an important position, and it's something that needs to be addressed. Another thing that needs to be addressed is the linebacker spot, and this is what I want to ask you about, because it's fascinating to me. It's interesting. All these other adjectives that I feel like I always talk about on the defensive side of the ball, They all apply, because if Daniel Green cannot play, the defensive strategy looks completely different, especially now that you get Josh Hayes and Julius Brents back. Mm-hmm. I'm almost wondering if we're going to see a ton of nickel on Saturday, because Oklahoma State likes to spread it out. Their leading rusher on Saturday only had 64 yards. Mm-hmm. So they're not a team that runs the ball super effectively normally. Mm-hmm. They throw the ball. That is their MO. They're 3rd in scoring offense in the country. They like to get up and down. They like to throw the ball. They like to score a lot of points. A lot of that comes through the air. will we see a more nickel if Daniel Green is not able to go on Saturday?
I think you will, regardless. If he could, I think you'll see nickel regardless if he's healthy or not. And also, a lot of time, Desmond Purnell, who played safety in high school, and when he got to K-State, he packed on a lot of muscle weight, and they moved him to linebacker. But the kid, he still can move good for his size, so he might be an option as well, coming in at the linebacker spot and playing like a hybrid safety / linebacker. But yeah, I think we will see a lot more nickel. And Sanders, he's a great quarterback. He's a great athlete. Sometimes he makes throws that wow you, and then there are other throws he should make, but he doesn't. But his legs are his strength. And like you said, he's about 70%, and I know his shoulder's hurting, but his legs are fine. And he scares me whenever he breaks the pocket and starts to scramble. That's when he creates and makes things happen. So we need people who can run sideline to sideline, keep him in front of him, and contain him. But yeah, I think nickel will be very key, especially on third down against Oklahoma State.
And the thing about Spencer Sanders against Texas was they really struggled in the second half. That was a high-scoring affair in the first half.
Right.
I think Oklahoma State and Texas combined scored like 10 points in the third quarter, something ridiculous like that, after combining for over 60 in the first half. But most of the times they converted were Spencer Sanders using his legs and running on third down on okay, nobody's open, so I'm going to take off and run, and you get the first down. If you're Joe Klanderman and you don't have Daniel Green, that limits what you can do defensively, but I almost wonder if they'll have Austin Moore take that role of Daniel Green in the past, playing, spying the quarterback. I'm wondering if that job will now fall upon Austin Moore.
I don't see why it wouldn't. He's shown that he can do it. I'm not definitely. They're two different players. Obviously, there's different skill set, but for that assignment, Moore can definitely more than hold his own. And like I said, I call him, the machine, Moore the machine. But he can do it, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that role.
It'll be interesting because he's fast. People don't realize, but he is fast.
Yeah,
he's
moves,
quick.
Yeah.
I think he's faster than Daniel Green.
I'm not sure, but
it'll be close. He
may be. Who knows? But the kid, he makes plays, and he has yet to show me that he can't compete at a high level against anybody he's win against. So I wouldn't question him.
And so if Daniel Green is not able to play, it changes what K-State does. If he is able to suit up and play, it's game on for K-State, because to me,
he's a leader.
As we transition more towards the offensive side, he is almost more important than Adrian Martinez. And this is where we talk about the offense, and everybody loves to talk about the quarterback situation. But if Will Howard can play how he played in the first half, I'm not worried about this offense moving the ball if Adrian Martinez doesn't play.
No, and here's the thing about it. The good thing for Will, that first half he had prior to him getting injured, he showed K-State Nation that he can be a productive quarterback with the offensive skills that he has and the players that he has around him. And I wholeheartedly expect the student section, the fans on homecoming weekend to embrace him. If he comes out and when they announce starting a quarterback, Will Howard, I expect the crowd to go nuts. And if they don't, I'll be disappointed. Support this young man. He showed that he can do it, and I think that should motivate him and the rest of the team to go out and move the ball. But I have confidence in him. He proved to me that he can do it last week.
He can do it, and the fact that everybody else around him is healthy, that's good for him, because he is able to basically, he's been with every single person on this team for 3 years now. This is not a hard transition, right, for him. So I'll be interested to see how Colin Klein decides to call the game if it is Will Howard. Are we going to see more downfield throws? Because Oklahoma State gives up a lot of big plays when it comes to that kind of stuff. Or are we going to see Deuce Vaughn, who maybe is now starting to get more towards healthy? Are we going to see some more inside and outside zone like we talked about? I know this. I know Oklahoma State was absolutely gashed on inside zone from Bijan Robinson in Texas in the first half of that game on Saturday. If you're looking for a blueprint, that might be how you do it. They are the worst team in the Big 12 at defending the run. K-State is the best team at running the football in the Big 12.
And I think it's a no-brainer. You definitely run the ball, because for us, we get the game going as far as offense. Run first, then pass. Some teams are different, but us, we're definitely a run-first team. On the flip side, too, Oklahoma State is so aggressive on the back end. They love to blitz guys. They love to, whenever you run jet motion or anything, they like to spin down to it and to be balanced. And that can create mismatches on the backside. So if they're being over-aggressive, play action over the top, you get a one-on-one, you get a stand-in on the linebacker, you get a Cade on the smaller DB, It has an advantages. But, yes, I would be shocked if we don't run a lot of inside zone come Saturday against them, because Texas did it. Now, I'm not comparing Deuce to Bijan, because Bijan's a big boy. He runs hard, he runs fast, but Deuce has his specialties and Bijan has his, and they both are very capable. But I'll be shocked if we don't see it.
And one thing that I think is worth noting, Will Howard has now played against Oklahoma State 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some good and there's some bad in this. And I'll say the good here because I think that the good outweighs the bad. There is going to be coaches on that Oklahoma State staff. Now, granted, it's a new defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. He's in his first season. But for the majority, these guys know how to defend Will Howard. At least they think they do.
They have him, yeah.
So I'll say this. There's going to be a ton of one-on-one matchups on the outside because they do not think that Will Howard will be able to beat them. If Will Howard is the guy, I guarantee you they will not respect Will Howard enough to think that he is able to beat them one-on-one. And what I saw against TCU, those receivers and that quarterback can win one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. And if they do give Will Howard one-on-one with zero coverage, watch out because K-State's going to have a ton of big plays.
I'm with you, and I am confident in Will, and he's going to make mistakes. People don't think he's going to go out there and just be world beaters because he won't be. You know, he's still young. He hadn't played a full season as a starting quarterback, and things change, and there's different competition, different level of speed, different new offense coordinator. I know he's known Colin a while. Colin's been around for a while, but not in the offense coordinator role. So there are some things he's going to have to adjust to. But I'm confident in him. I mean, honestly, if Adrian's not 100%, I would start Will and have Adrian available if needed and give Will a chance to go win the game and get Adrian healthy because we got a lot of football left. But if that's not the case, okay, stay ready. And I think if he's called upon, he will be able to produce.
It's going to be a great game on Saturday. And I want to leave you with this stat before we get to predictions because this just tells you everything you need to know about Oklahoma State's defense. They're 117th in total defense.
Wow.
But they are third in the Big 12 with third down defense.
Yeah.
So what does that say? It says they give up a lot of big plays, but they get off the field when they need to.
Yeah.
Those are two conflicting things. And to me, that just says the explosive plays will be there.
Yeah. And I'm hoping they are. And if they aren't, my only concern with that stat is if they're really good on third down, and as much as K-State goes for it on fourth down, we're not successful. I'm not sure what the percentage is, but I feel like we're less successful going on fourth down than we are more successful. How does that come into play? And especially at certain times of the game. But on the flip side, we do have guys that are capable of making the big plays. So hopefully those big plays are going for touchdowns rather than just long yardage and then getting stalled out on third down. But I like the opportunity that's ahead of us.
And I got to correct myself. Third in the nation in third down defense.
Wow.
Not third in the conference. Got to correct myself.
Gotcha.
Got to give them their due.
That's even more impressive.
It's more impressive. It really is. Let's get into our predictions as we wrap up the show here on the Friday walkthrough. Monty, I'll let you go first.
Oh man, there's so many what ifs with injuries. Who going to play? I'm going to give Cass the win, and the reason I'm giving them the win is because we came off a game on the road against a quality team that we should have won. And Oklahoma State's coming in town, ranked higher than us, but it's a home game for us, homecoming, and I feel like our guys know their backs against the wall. And I think our guys understand if we win this game, it sets us up still to potentially make a run at the Big 12 championship game. So this is a huge game for us. We understand what's at hand. So I'm going to go K-State 34, Okie State 28.
Ooh, you were very close to my prediction, too. I'm actually going to pick K-State to win, and we'll say this. There's not a lot of people that are picking K-State to win this game.
Of course not.
It's not how it is. K-State is favored for whatever that's worth,
right.
But there's not a lot of people that are picking K-State to win this game. I'm going to pick K-State to win this game. I'm going to pick them to win 34-31. I'm going to say it's a game-winning field goal. It is the Chris Tennant redemption.
I'll take it.
He makes a field goal with 0 seconds left on the clock. The students rush the field, and it is a happy homecoming on Halloween Eve in Manhattan, Kansas.
A win's a win.
A win is a win. We'll see if either one of our predictions are right. Make sure if you're not going to the game, you're watching the game. It is a 2:30 kick on Fox. Thanks, everybody, so much for tuning into the Friday walkthrough. Make sure you're hitting subscribe on YouTube, and we will talk to you next Friday.
You ready to ride?
I thought you'd never ask.
It's the untold story of the greatest American lawman.
I'm warning you, your wicked days are done.
Lawmen, Bass Reeves' new original series, now streaming exclusively on Paramount+.